Imagine you're standing in the middle of a grocery store aisle. You're looking for something simple, a jar of strawberry jam. In front of you, the shelf is groaning under the weight of 24 different varieties. There are organic options, sugar-free versions, imported preserves from France, local artisanal batches, and the familiar brands you grew up with. You stand there, eyes scanning the labels, feeling a strange, creeping sense of exhaustion. It should be a moment of ultimate freedom, yet you feel stuck, unable to pull the trigger on a single jar. We have been told since birth that choice is the ultimate marker of liberty. We believe that more options lead to more control, and more control leads to a better life. It is the fundamental promise of the modern world, that you can be anything, buy anything, and go anywhere. But there is a quiet, uncomfortable truth hiding behind that promise. As our options expand toward infinity, our happiness doesn't follow. In fact, it often begins to decline. To understand why this happens, we have to look back at a landmark study conducted at a high-end grocery store in California. Researchers set up a tasting booth with two different scenarios. In the first, they offered shoppers a selection of 24 different jams. In the second, they offered only 6. The results were startling. While the larger display attracted more crowds, people were 10 times more likely to actually buy a jar when they were presented with only 6 choices. This was the birth of what psychologists call the paradox of choice. It suggests that while we are attracted to variety, the sheer volume of it paralyzes us. When we have too many paths to take, we often end up standing still, terrified that whichever one we pick will be the wrong one. We find ourselves in a state of analysis paralysis, where the mental energy required to compare 24 jars of jam outweighs the joy of eating any of them. But the problem goes deeper than just being unable to decide. Even when we do finally make a choice, having had so many options actually makes us less satisfied with what we've picked. This happens because of a psychological mechanism known as opportunity cost. When you choose the French preserves, you aren't just buying one jam. You're actively rejecting 23 others. Your brain can't help but imagine the qualities of the options you left behind, creating a ghost-like dissatisfaction that haunts your purchase. In a world of limited choice, if you buy a pair of jeans and they don't fit quite right, you blame the world. You tell yourself that the manufacturer didn't make a good product. But in a world where there are 1,000 different styles of jeans, if you buy a pair and they aren't perfect, you blame yourself. You tell yourself that with so many options available, the perfect pair must have been there, and you were simply too incompetent to find it. This shift in responsibility is the most toxic element of the paradox. When options are limitless, the pressure to make the perfect choice becomes unbearable. We become what psychologists call maximizers, people who feel the need to research every possible alternative to ensure they are getting the absolute best. Maximizers might spend hours reading reviews for a toaster or days scrolling through Netflix, only to feel a sense of regret the moment they finally press play. The opposite of the maximizer is the satisficer. This is the person who has a set of criteria and chooses the first option that meets them. Once the criteria are met, they stop looking. They don't care if there is a 5% better option 5 miles away. Interestingly, research shows that while maximizers often make objectively better choices, perhaps finding a cheaper flight or a higher-rated hotel, they are almost always less happy with those choices than the satisficers are. This phenomenon has escaped the grocery store and bled into the most intimate corners of our lives. Consider the landscape of modern romance. A few generations ago, most people married someone from their neighborhood or their social circle. Today, dating apps provide us with a literal infinity of potential partners. On the surface, this seems like an incredible advantage, but it has created a culture of perpetual searching. When you know there is a fresh gallery of faces just one swipe away, the incentive to work through the inevitable frictions of a real relationship diminishes. We start treating people like consumer goods, always wondering if there is a better upgrade waiting in the next digital stack. This abundance doesn't lead to better connections. It leads to a profound sense of loneliness and the inability to ever truly commit, because commitment requires the total rejection of all other possibilities. This is the hidden tax of the modern age. We are paying for our freedom with our peace of mind. Every time we open a browser or walk into a shopping mall, we are entering a high-stakes game of mental gymnastics. We are constantly calculating, comparing, and wondering, what if? We have reached a point where the effort required to navigate our choices is starting to exceed the value of the choices themselves. The discovery here is that freedom isn't the absence of boundaries. It is the ability to function within them. Without some form of limitation, our minds lose their bearings. We become like a pilot flying in a sky with no horizon line, unable to tell which way is up. We need constraints to feel secure, and we need finality to feel satisfied. So, what is the antidote to a world that refuses to stop offering us more? The answer lies in the intentional narrowing of our own horizons. It is the realization that good enough is often significantly better than the best. It is the discipline to stop looking once we have found something that works, and the wisdom to understand that the secret to happiness isn't having every door open, but having the courage to close most of them. We are living through a grand experiment in human psychology, a time where we have more power and more choice than any king or queen in history. Yet we are discovering that the human heart wasn't built for infinity. It was built for the local, the tangible, and the settled. The next time you find yourself standing in that grocery aisle, overwhelmed by the varieties of jam or the endless rows of cereal, try an experiment. Don't look for the best. Don't read every label. Just pick one that looks good, put it in your cart, and don't look back. You might find that the sweetness of the choice comes not from what's inside the jar, but from the simple, quiet relief of finally being done with the search.